Welcome to Books and Ideas Audio, a presentation of the Vancouver Writers Fest. The Vancouver Writers Fest connects people to exceptional books, ideas, and dialogue through year-round programming that ignites a passion for words and the world around us. I'm Leslie Hertig, Artistic Director, and I'm very happy to share this conversation featuring novelist Marlon James in conversation with Ian Williams. This event was recorded live on February 17, 2018 at the Waterfront Theatre on Granville Island. Special thanks to our government funders, the Government of Canada, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Government of BC, the BC Arts Council, the City of Vancouver, and CMHC Granville Island. The Writers Fest carries out its work, including this event you're about to listen to, on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. This event features Booker Prize-winning novelist Marlon James in conversation with Giller Prize-winning novelist Ian Williams.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I've been looking forward to this for months, and hopefully you have too. So it's my pleasure to introduce Marlon James. Marlon James is best known for his novel, A Brief History of Seven Killings, which won the 2015 Man Booker Prize. The novel also won the American Book Award, the Anisfield Wolf Book Award, and the Minnesota Book Award. It was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, and it was a New York Times notable book. A Brief History was his third novel. It came almost 10 years after his first, John Crow's Devil, 2005, which is a novel about warring preachers. His second novel, The Book of Night Women, 2009, is set on a Jamaican sugar plantation in the 18th century. It won the Dayton Literary Peace Prize for fiction and the Minnesota Book Award. And it also was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. The book that brings him to us in Vancouver tonight is Black Leopard, Red Wolf, the first of a planned Dark Star trilogy. It's a book that needs an introduction of its own. Critics keep searching for comparisons for it. I'll read you three of them. They describe it as if Tarantino met Tolkien, if Toni Morrison had written Ovid's Metamorphosis, and the literary equivalent of a Marvel Comics universe. That's Kakutani from the New York Times. The movie rights to the novel have already been sold, gobbled up by Michael B. Jordan of Black Panther fame, and this week the novel is number 4 on the New York Times hardcover fiction bestseller list. And I think it's been out for 2 weeks. Marlon James is also a prolific public intellectual whose fiction and nonfiction has appeared in Esquire, Harper's, the New York Times, Granta, GQ, and the Caribbean Review of Books. He teaches at Macalester College in St. Paul, Minnesota. Please welcome Marlon James. So I'm going to ask Marlon a few questions first, and then he'll read, and then we'll go back to questions, and then it's your turn, right, to ask questions. So my first question, and you're probably sick of this by now.
He was warning me before.
I'm not going to ask you that one. That's like after. But people have been calling this the African Game of Thrones, and you've sort of backed away from that comment. How would you describe the book?
You know, to be fair, I'm the person who said it first.
Yeah. You started it.
So, you know, it's funny because, I come out of media and I come out of entertainment and I know how to get press to pay attention. And I said it, I actually said it in a magazine I thought nobody really read. And it turns out everybody who reads it works in media. So it kind of took off to the point where George R. Martin emails me. And he's like, I heard you're writing an African version of my book. And he thought it was delightful, so that's great. Then I asked him to blurb it and didn't hear from him. So
It's the first thing that people sort of quote in articles, right?
Yeah,
So-
I think because it's again because Game of Thrones is just so recognizable, and I think it's an easy comparison to make. I was joking earlier today that by now Game of Thrones fans have probably read the book and go, this is nothing like Game of Thrones.
So then, how would you describe it then? Like, how would you introduce this book?
Wow. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the proposal I sent to my editor. For me it was almost more in common. It had more in common with Arabian Nights than Game of Thrones. And that to me, it's a sort of it was me trying to write a fantasy sort of whodunit, well, why done it, kind of novel. I said I was going to like geek the hell out on it.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a African fantasy geek fest that
Good.
it's about a bunch of mercenaries who are hired to find a child and they botch it up badly and the child is dead. And people, inquiring minds, want to know what happened.
Right.
And there are 3 witnesses, and each witness's testimony is a separate book. So this is the first witness testimony. Right. So it's not a trilogy in the sense of it's a part 1, part 2, part 2, part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 2 is not going to pick up where part 1 left off.
Right.
Part 1 finished the whole story. There's nothing left.
It reinscribes itself, right?
Yeah. So part 2 is pretty much the same story being told by a different character. And yeah. So and then part 3, of course, is again another version of the same story.
So one of the things that I think is causing a lot of anxiety, there's tons of media, tons of press about this book in a very short time. And one of the things causing a lot of anxiety is this divide between literary fiction and fantasy.
Right.
Right? Do you think, is there a way of talking about this book without talking about genre, or do you think it's productive to sort of
I mean,
work
it's
through those
productive. It's
categories?
productive to a point because it's productive to a point, I guess. But I've always found those distinctions to be bullshit. My last novel, Brief History, as far as I was concerned, I was writing a crime novel. And the biggest influence on me with that book was James Elroy. When I want to remember how to write dialogue, I read Elmer Leonard,
Right.
or Carl Hiaasen. If I want to remember that, my characters can be as brutal as they want. I can read Patricia Highsmith. I just think, genre and it depends on the country. For example, I actually had a hard time finding a British publisher for this book. And I'm sure they're all eating crow now. I'd love to say I'm not.
Right.
I'd love to be a bigger person who said, no, I don't gloat, but I'm incredibly,
Gloat away, yeah.
I'm an incredibly petty man. So, but one of the publishers who shall remain nameless, Fort Estate, said that it was too literary for sci-fi and too sci-fi for literary readers, and neither will read it. Which is funny because the American editor and the Canadian editor said the very same thing. I go, and everybody's gonna read it.
Right.
They just couldn't let go. Their ideas of genre is even more rigid, and which is not to say they have a low opinion of genre fiction. They're just really into this separate but equal thing. Whereas in America, I think we pay lip service to genre, but we do have a low opinion of it. And I always throw things out. You can knock, for example, chick lit all you want. It's the only genre where women work.
Right. I'm going to ask you about that later.
Yeah, it's like I read literary fiction and I sometimes go, how do these people eat?
Right. Well, yeah, they look out windows for a long time, right?
Yeah,
And drink cups
yeah.
of tea.
There's a lot of ennui. I'm like, somebody got to pay the bill. It's when we talk about cultural appropriation and representation and all these problems we have with writers of literary fiction, I never have these problems with the crime writers. Only one writer on The Wire was black. So what is it that the crime writer, and I'll ask, what is it what the crime writers do or know that the literary authors don't? And the literary authors' usual response is, well, I don't read those things. I said, that's why your book's dumb as shit.
So
And, and that's why nobody believes you're a woman, and nobody believes you're black people.
yeah, what do you imagine then, or what do you hope for in terms of literary fiction? Do you see that it needs to be opened up? Are you trying to open it up? Are you trying to sort of raise the profile of genre fiction?
I think literary fiction is open up. I think it's already opened up.
Lit fiction is?
Yeah, I was at a book festival recently, and it was a phenomenon I haven't encountered in years. The white guy who only reads white guys. It was amazing. They all thought they were the literary avant-garde. And all they read is each other. And it was amazing because I was there, Edwige Dantica was there, who else was there? Rue Freeman. And we were the colored contingent, the immigrant contingent, and the gay contingent all in one. So everybody else got to just sort of white male up the place.
Right.
And it just hit me that nobody in this room has read Toni Morrison. No, nobody in this room has read Muriel Spark.
Right.
And but I do think that kind of literature, it says something that it was an academic campus. Because that kind of literature lives on in a kind of academic snobbery.
Right.
It's the I can never remember if it's Harold Bloom or Alan Bloom, one of the Blooms.
Harold, yeah.
That kind of the canon.
Right.
Kind of thing. Whereas that literature is, I just think it's not that way anymore. One of the weirdest parts, I don't want to dwell too long on this, but it illustrates my point. The head of the program started to lament about when are we going to write the literature of the oppressed, and when are we going to write the literature of marginalized peoples, and when are we going to get into the problems of the world? And I said, those people are writing their own books, right?
Right.
They've been writing them for like 60 years now, if not more.
Right.
I mean, Machado Assis is from the 19th century. They've been writing these books. It just glazed over. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm wondering, so is there going to be a point where you can write without needing to prove these things, right? Write without needing to prove that literary fiction can absorb or can have elements of genre fiction that they can be merged or blended? Yeah. Or can you write without... And that's not an agenda you put on yourself. That's an agenda that's coming on from the outside.
That's not an agenda that put Pete on me because I really don't care.
Yeah.
I've always had those elements in the stuff I write. Anybody who's really read my stuff really well can tell that I'm still copying X-Men. It's a superhero team in the book, for God's sake. One of the characters manipulates wind. I'm surprised I'm not sued. It's just when it comes to writing, there are very few people I listen to, and it's not that I'm arrogant and I think I can write well, because if I did, it wouldn't take me 9 drafts to get a book right. But I just don't think about those things. Right. I think about, what makes a story, or what makes a story great, and what do I want to read. And because I just didn't grow up with that kind of snobbery. Right. I grew up reading whatever was available, and I liked them equally, and I totally resisted the whole ranking of books that would happen in, say, lit class. So if I'm reading whatever I can buy or borrow or steal, hey, that's how I ended up with 100 Years of Solitude, My Life of Crime. Don't knock it.
You stole it?
Well, I didn't steal it. It was there and nobody claimed it.
Right.
And the cover was so pretty. But but from a book like 100 Years of Solitude, the next book I'll read is, say, Hollywood Wives by Jackie Collins.
Right. So you feel free, like your tastes are eclectic, not just in books, but in movies and music and everything. You feel.
Well, part of it too is that you just had to take what you can get.
Right.
I mean, I remember growing up, we had one TV station, so you watch whatever was on TV.
Right.
We were just lucky that the person directing the TV had fantastic taste. I'll buy tons of Criterion DVDs and watch a film and go, but I've seen this. Because yes, it was one TV station, but the guy had fantastic taste. Right. I just when you look at art and all these things as just whatever is available, let's just appreciate it and so on. You don't start ranking things.
It's really refreshing, right? Like you genuinely you're not building up this distinction between high and low and popular and sort of elite culture. Right, you really consume whatever comes to you, and you can find something to appreciate in anything. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I remember when I used to write reviews, because I'd write reviews and it'd be sort of highbrow, and then I'd have a line. He's acted like he was being player hated. And people, the editor go, what does a player hate? As I Google it, just go to Urban Dictionary.
Right.
It's I don't know if it also is part of kind of being an 80s kid. And, being so submerged in pop culture while at the same time being taught what people are telling you is highbrow. And refusing the labels and a system of ranking stuff.
Right.
Because, I grew up, a lot of stuff that was very popular was also very good. It's like listening to Prince.
It's like TV these days, right? Lots of
Yeah.
good sort of material in a medium that's typically low, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe we could pause here, and I'm going to ask you, just share something with us if you would
Yeah.
like to read for us, and then we'll go back to some questions, and I've
All
got a
right.
game for you as well.
All right, maybe I should run over there.
That'd be good.
All right, let me read. So, I'm tempted to read either just the beginning or read a section that involves the coolest buffalo ever. I'm going to read a section with the cool buffalo. So, in this novel, Tracker's on a mission to find this child who's been gone, who's been missing for 3 years. And on this mission, he ends up in a sort of a team, almost like a superhero team, that most of them he really doesn't like and he doesn't trust. But the one character one of the characters he really, really felt for, one of the people on the mission he really, really fell for was this buffalo, who is super smart. And I know because my research assistant fell in love with him so much, he kept threatening to write a spin-off book with the buffalo. So this is how he met the buffalo, and this is them on one of their very, very first adventures. It was just to the river, but things happened. So it says, flying outside my window was a flag of the black sparrowhawk. My return to Congo disturbed no one. My waking earlier than the sun caught nobody, so I went outside. The flag flew 200, maybe 300 paces away, at the top of a tower in the center of the Niembe quarter, flapping wild as if the wind was furious with it. Black sparrowhawk, 7 wings. The sun was hiding behind clouds fat with rain. It was near the season, so I went outside. In the courtyard, pulling up the few shrubs from the dirt, stood a buffalo. Male, brown-black, body longer than 1.5 of me lying flat, his horns already fused into a crown and dipping downward to curve back upward like a grand hairstyle. Except, I have seen a buffalo kill 3 hunters and rip a lion in 2. So I gave this buffalo wide space as I walked to the archway. He looked up and moved right into my way. I remembered again I needed new hatchets, not that either hatchet or knife could win against him. I did not smell urine. I was not stepping into his boundary. The buffalo did not snort and did not kick his hooves in the dirt, but he stared at me from my feet all the way to my neck, then down, then up, then down and up again, slowly annoying me. Buffaloes cannot laugh, but I would swear to the gods that he did. You should know that Tracker doesn't really have any clothes, so he stole a curtain rod and a curtain, and he's actually wearing a curtain, so he looks ridiculous. I stepped aside and walked, but he stepped right in my way. I moved to the other side, and so did he. He looked up and down again, and I would again swear to the gods, demons, and river spirits that he laughed. He came in closer and stepped back once. If he wanted to kill me, I would have been walking with the ancestors already. He came closer, hooked his horn in the curtain I wore, and pulled it off, making me spin and fall. I cursed the buffalo, but did not grab the curtain. Besides, it was early morning. Who would see me? And if anyone did see me, I could claim I was robbed by bandits as I bathed in the river. 10 paces past the arch, I looked back and saw the buffalo followed me. Here is truth. The buffalo was the greatest of companions. In Congo, even old women slept late, so the only souls on the street were those who never slept. Palm wine drunkards and Masuko beer fools, falling down more than they got up. My eye jumped over to their side each time we passed one of them, looking at a near naked man walking alongside a buffalo, not the way some walked with dogs, but how men walked with men. A man flat on his back in the road turned, saw us, jumped up and ran right into a wall. The river had flooded the banks 4 nights before, and Congo was an island again for 4 moons. I marked my chest and legs with river clay, and the buffalo, lying in the grass and grazing, nodded up and down. I painted around my left eye, up to my hair and down to the cheekbone. "Where are you from, good buffalo?" He turned his head west and pointed with his horns up and down. "West, by the Buki River?" He shook his head. "Beyond, in the savannah. Is there good water to be had there, buffalo?" He shook his head. "Is that why you roam, or is there another reason?" He nodded yes. "Were you called upon by that fucking witch?" He shook his head. "Were you called upon by Sogolon?" He nodded yes. Buffalo is all about politeness. "When we were dead," he looked up and snorted. "By dead I mean not dead. I mean when Sogolon was of a mind we were dead. She must have found others. Are you one of her others?" He nodded yes. "And already you have sharp thoughts about how I should dress. I must say you are a particular buffalo." He went off into the bush, his tail whipping flies. I heard a man's heavy footsteps through the grass, 50 paces away, and sat by the banks, my feet in the river. I pulled my dagger but did not turn around. He moved closer. The cold iron of a blade touched my right shoulder. "Nasty boy, how you dey manage the things?" he asked. "They're managing them fine," I said, mocking his tongue. "You lost? You look like it's so." "That be how I look?" "Well, partner, you trotting round here, no robes on your person, like you're mad or you a boy lover or a father fucker or what?" "I just washing my foot in the river." "So you're looking for the boy lover's quarter?" "Just washing my foot in the river." "For the boy lover's quarter, it be weird now." "Hold that bridle. We has no boy lover's quarter around here." "Eh? You sure you talking true? 'Cause the last time me in the boy lover's quarter, my eyes peep your father and your grandfather." He slapped the side of my head with his club. "Get up," he said. At least he wasn't about to slay me without a fight. On his back he strapped 2 axes, shorter than me by almost a head. My first thought was to ignore his anger and ask why he was around, since not even a wise Sogolon knew why 7 wings assemble. He then said something to me in a thicker voice than before. "That's what we're going to do with men like you," this wing said. "What?" "Who you want me to send your head to, boy fucker?" "You're wrong." "How am I wrong?" "You're wrong about me being the boy fucker. Most times it's the boys who fucking me. Hark, there was this one, best in many a moon. So tight, believe you me, I had to stuff a corn cob to ease up that hole. Then I ate the corn. Me chop off your bolo first, then your head, then throw the rest of you in the river. How you liking that? And when your parts flow down the river, people are going to say, look pon that boy fucker sugar, rolling down in the river. Don't drink from the river lest you become a boy fucker too. Chop me with those axes. I've been looking for iron fine as such, forged by a Wakadushu blacksmith, or did you steal them from a butcher's wife? Drop the knife. I looked at this man, not taller than a boy, confusing stout with muscular and dashing shit on my quiet morning. I dropped the dagger in my hand and the one strapped to my leg. I would love to greet the sun and bid it goodbye without killing a man, I said. He laughed, pointing the club at me with his left hand and pulling an axe with his right. Maybe me should be killing you for your mad tongue and not your perverse ways, he said. He waved his axes in front of me, swinging and swirling them, but I did not move. The mercenary stepped forward just as a wad of something hit the back of his neck. Aunt of a donkey, he said. He swung around just as the buffalo snorted again and nose juice hit the warrior in the face. Eye to eye with the buffalo, he jumped. Before he could swing an axe, the buffalo scooped up the warrior with his horns and threw him off far into the grass. One axe landed in the field. The other came straight at me but bounced off. I cursed the buffalo. It was some time before the warrior sat up, shook his head, rose to his feet, and staggered off when the buffalo rushed him again. You took your time. I could have made bread, I said. He trotted off and slapped me with his tail as he passed. I laughed and picked up my new axes. Thank you.
Yeah. Tracker just kind of swaggers through this whole
He
book,
kind of does, yeah.
Killing people. Yeah. Can you talk to us
He's a lover and a fighter. What?
That's actually really accurate, right? Thanks. Yeah, it's dropping. Thanks.
What are we doing wrong? Okay.
That's good. Now, can you talk to us a little bit about the supernatural in this book? So, what are the limits of belief?
Yeah.
Buffaloes are sort of roaming with animals. Are there things what are the limits of belief? What wouldn't you sort of include in a book like this?
I can't imagine what I wouldn't include. The one thing that was very important is that I did not write it with a tourist view of the world. And I think this is the thing that trips up for me a lot of fantasy and sci-fi is that we forget that for the characters in the world, it's not sci-fi. For the characters in the world, that is the world. And especially when it's first person, that person has to talk about the world as if this is natural. The familiar the strange has to be familiar, and the familiar is strange, as like Toni Morrison would say. So that's the first thing that, while I may think, flying people and werewolves and hyenas are great, they don't. And I think that's the thing. If you render it as natural as possible, then pretty much anything works. Reading all this stuff on African mythology and myths and legends and history was just so many things. And so many of these legends and stories challenge my view of the world and challenge my view of even morality. Because even though most of us, well, I can't say most of us, I don't know you. Even though quite a few of us aren't necessarily practicing Christians, we're almost all practicing Calvinists. And we still have that sort of worldview.
Right.
So to let go of all of that. And not just that, to let go of even the way in which Western legends have certainly shaped me. Something as simple as in a lot of the African traditions, there is this thing called the Noon of the Dead. And the Noon of the Dead is at midnight. And the second I said midnight and I said Noon of the Dead, because we're Western people, a whole series of connotations just shot off in your head. None of which would apply in that world. Because the Noon of the Dead means means the ancestors are coming out. And if I remember correctly, my grandma was so much cooler than my mom.
Why is that?
So, because they're just above the bullshit and she'll tell me stuff. So if I know there's a certain time of day where regardless of whatever crap I went through, I can go and hang out with grandma, that's a fantastic time of day. Whereas high noon was the scariest time for a lot of these cultures, because the all the things we associate with midnight, the witching hour, things going bump in the night, villains who show up in the dark but would cringe in the day. Like African vampires have no problem killing you in broad daylight.
Right. So just rethinking something as simple as night and day, right?
Yeah.
And our associations to that. Light and
And the
darkness.
associations we put with both of those.
Yeah.
So the idea that it's high noon that you run screaming and lock yourself up, but midnight is cool.
Yeah. And your characters don't go around explaining. I like how you put it, like the tourist way of thinking of the world. They don't go around explaining what's going on. When students write fiction, sometimes there's a lot of world building with spec fiction and a lot of fantasy.
But you can't help that, especially when you're doing speculative. You do have to build the world,
Right.
But you have to take some risks. I think one risk you sometimes have to take is to simply just move in the world and hope the reader catches up, and also realize the reader doesn't have to catch up. You can go as detailed as you want about New York City. There's some of it I just won't know and understand. And at some point, the great thing about reading is that you also do the bulk of the world building. A writer can do a lot of things, but a writer can't make a book come alive.
Yeah, they're filling in, right?
Yeah,
The
it's the
reader is.
reader that does that.
Sure.
And there are parts where it's I don't know, it's a hard it's one of the hardest things I have to teach students, what to not write.
Right, what to omit.
And what to leave alone, and what you
Poetry's
can leave.
good for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Little
This is
plug
why
for
I
poetry there.
secretly hate all poets. It's what there is some level of, if not creative work, there is the job of the book coming alive. That's the reader's job. And I think with speculative, I actually love the idea of leaving some things up to them, because it always hit me that until the movie came out, if 10 million people read Lord of the Rings, that was 10 million Frodos. Now we only have one.
Right.
Now
Different versions of
everybody thinks Elijah Wood.
Right. It's
And
like
every-
putting
yeah.
a picture of your character on the front cover of a book, right?
Yeah.
You live
There were millions of Harry Potters. Now we only have one.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
You're right. You want to play a little bit of a game?
Sure. Why
All
did I
right.
agree to this?
So-
I don't even know what type of game it is yet.
So here it is. I'm just going to read you back to yourself, okay?
Oh,
and you have
Jesus.
to, you can explain, you can contextualize, you can clarify. You
Oh,
can,
goodness. As long as I don't have to identify where it came from.
No, you can,
Okay.
you can retreat.
Because
even
I read
from
a
it.
lot of words.
You do? Okay, actually, that's a good place to start. So, from Vanity Fair. I've never worked from home. I've always had a separate office. I think I need separate spaces. There are too many records at home. There's too much distraction. I just can't do it at all. I get there at around 10, 11, and I write till 6. I can be in the middle of a sentence. I don't care. I stop. I'm very big on putting in a day's work. What do you say to yourself?
What did I say? That?
What would you say to yourself about your process here?
I'm saying, good on you. I'm like,
Is this true?
but it's
Like,
true.
actually-
It still is. It still is true. It's funny because nearly every house I've lived in, every house I've rented has had a fully functional office that has never been used. Like my office now, it has a Mac, it has a printer, it has a scanner, it has 2 desks, 3 chairs, and tons of cobwebs.
Right.
I just can't work from home. Because, my home is where I have everything that excites me about, enjoying my life. So I come home, I want to play music.
Right.
And so on. So I'm the person who will leave my home office and find a cafe somewhere and write. And that's how I wrote Brief History. I wrote it in nearly every cafe in Minneapolis.
Different character for every cafe, or
Sometimes.
you like a big cast? Too,
Yeah.
right? You do.
Yeah. So for this book, I did have an office. And to me, when I write, I go to work. I'm amazed when people say things that they write when they're inspired. I'm like, wow.
Right. So you really keep these hours? Like you pretty much go 10 to 6?
I do keep normal work hours. I get there at like 10, 11, and I work, and I have a lunch break, and I stop at 6, and I don't take work home.
Wow, that's admirable.
Because I love to not write. And that's what I'm saying. So, and to me, one of my creative writing teachers, Nancy McKinley, once says, if you set a routine, the muses will show up. And I believe her.
Right.
Because when people say things about they write when they're inspired, I'm like, man, I've been inspired since the first George Bush administration.
Right.
I was like, how do you do it?
I'm going to give you another one, okay?
Uh-huh.
This is a LitHub article about your mother. This is a bargain that I still see women make, including friends who are not friends anymore. Now that I'm a married woman, my life is husband and family. Friends fade. This was something of that women of her time were told to buy into, that friendship was something to bide the time until you found your true purpose as wife and mother. Happiness was something you provided for your children, not yourself. What are your thoughts on your
And my mom was on the cusp of that, which is both kind of great and both kind of sad, in the sense that she was a career woman. So already she was radically different from her parents and her grandparents. And my mom was like, the first woman cop to be made detective in Jamaica. She's kind of a badass. But she still bought into the idea that now that I'm married, my life is husband, career, and children, and friends got let go. And the problem, and the thing is, now I'm watching her in her 80s. You know, the husband has died, the children have left the nest, and she's retired. So what do you have left?
Right.
And I think, and I, you know, and I do see it, and I still see it with their friends of mine who are not friends, because they're like, well, you know, friendship was something from my 20s, and you know, particularly women friends, and it's just something, it's just considered a thing to give up.
So you still think it's true of this generation? Women's happiness is determined by family? And
I mean, not as much as, say, my mother's generation, but I do think people underestimate the value of friendships and the value of friends. I think the thing that keeps me normal is I have a whole posse of friends who are so not impressed with me. They don't read my books. They only know about me when somebody tell them. They'll go, you know, my boss likes your book. They are so incapable of being interested.
how about your family?
Huh?
How about your family with regards to
Same
that?
thing. Actually, my brother is reading my book now, and he's so excited. He's like, this is your first book that I'm reading.
That's good.
I was like, I have 4.
That's good. That's good. I'll give you another. How about this one? Just 2 words from the New York Times. Narratively promiscuous.
I almost spat out.
What's that about?
But that goes back to what I'm saying, that I read widely and I read without discriminating, and I will read anything. Right now, I'm reading Jane Eyre because I haven't read it in years. That book is so goth. I forgot that thing. I feel like I need to put on corpse paint. It's so goth. I'm reading that, but I'm also reading Hellboy in Hell, because Hellboy has finally made it to hell, and I'm very excited. What else am I reading? I just read The Perfect Nanny, which is funny because there's a kind of reader who buys a book called The Perfect Nanny, and then they open that book and they're so horrified by the very first paragraph.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, Francine Duplessis Gray said, resist the tyranny of genre. And I've always believed that, and not even realizing that I did. So, yeah. But narratively promiscuous may be that I fall in love with supporting characters all the time. And they sometimes they end up taking over the book. He didn't take over with this one.
Right.
Because I really fell for the Black Leopard in the book. I felt hard for him. Like, you're exactly the type of person nobody should date.
Yeah, it shows, right? There's a real obsession all the way throughout the book, right? Yeah, that's a great thread.
He is so not boyfriend material.
Always throughout the whole book, or you think that's just a conclusion towards
Leopard?
the end? Yeah.
Oh no, through the whole book. He's like, you can't date a cat. you just can't. You can't date a cat.
In human form, maybe.
No,
like, maybe one more, and then I'll turn it over to the audience. We've talked about genre, so I'll skip this one. Yeah, let's do this one, okay? This is from The Observer. It came out, just a couple of days ago. With writing, you have to remember that characters are human, and humans surprise and humans disappoint, says James. I write men who fail the expectations put on them. I think masculinity is an expectation, and it's a role, and it's a way, and in a way, it's drag. It's a drag, you said here. Yeah.
Well, masculinity is a drag. It is drag. It is performance. It's as fake as anything else. It's certain in a way in which I grew up, where masculinity was a performance, where sometimes in Jamaica, having one girlfriend meant you were gay. Yeah. I remember when...
you mean at a time or ever?
Ever. So I remember... So one of the biggest gunmen in Jamaica, his name is Zeke's. And Zeke's has been gay for years, right? And Zeke's style is he gets blowjobs from people and kill them. So he's also a serial killer.
Wow.
And so Zeke's finally gets caught and finally ends up in a court date because they found his DNA in one of his victims' mouths.
Wow.
Zeke's has a press conference, not to prove he's innocent. He's fine with being guilty. He had the press conference to prove he's straight. He's like, I have dozens of baby on the street. Clearly I'm straight. I'm like, dude, everybody knows you're the biggest cocksucker in Kingston.
And that's masculinity and performance.
It's
there,
performance. Right? Which is not. I do think there's such a thing as masculinity.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of it is performance. People. It's funny how the backlash sometimes men have against the term toxic masculinity. And I was like, but every men's magazine in existence is there to fight toxic masculinity. They're like, how can I not be a cad? How to not sleep around? How to be irresponsible? That's the whole purpose to Men's Health.
Right. Are you tired of that term, though? Toxic masculinity? Are you tired of it? Or you feel like it's actually still doing work?
Well, people need to stop being toxic. I'm tired of it. I see too much. There's too much of it of masculinity, which I think is a totally different thing from maleness. That is, it's a set of social. It's just a social circumstances. A set of social conventions, rather.
Do you find yourself playing it?
Oh God, I hope not. I wear dresses all the time.
I've been calling it a tunic, right? Like
that's true, because that's butch. But I'm still a product of this society, and but I really hope that's one of the things that we start to just tear down. I think.
This book is tearing it down. Right, when you consider how the fluidity with how men interact with each other.
It's in Africa gets a lot of rap right now for homophobia in countries like Uganda and Nigeria. And one of the things we don't realize is how invented that homophobia is. That to me was one of the joys of this research, was just finding how much queerness was in Africa and non-binariness, and that I remember once I interviewed Chimamanda Adichie.
She's going to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah, in a few months.
Oh, God, she rocks. And I remember she was talking about, when she was growing up, everybody knew of the two aunts at the end of the street.
Right.
Everybody knew of the two uncles. Or the brothers who don't look alike. Everybody knew. And everybody knew that even if they're not people you readily invite to the party, everybody knew if they were to vanish, the town would fall apart.
Right.
And my friend Lola Shunyin, another Nigerian novelist, is, when somebody asks her if Africa would ever be ready to accept gay rights and so on, she says Africa was born ready until a bunch of TV preachers told them that they weren't. And I think that that is what's happened.
Right, and the book talks about a time before this, right, before the intervention of Christianity. Yeah. All right, I'm going to turn to the audience here. Please couch your questions as questions.
Not a comment.
To state the obvious.
Not a 15-minute comment with a 1-second question.
Afterwards, you can do all that with him privately afterwards, but be mindful of the others around you and his time. So, who'd like to go first?
Yes.
Right. So I'll just repeat the question for the benefit of the recording and for others there. So, with regard to your second book. You're curious about how, what works he's encountered to sort of deal with decolonization.
Yeah, I can read it as like what type of works that spoke to me that I thought this is me and this speaks to me. Believe it or not, so many of those works weren't even Jamaican. The first work where I recognized myself was Jessica Hagedorn's Dog Eaters. And this is a novel set in the Philippines. And I met her. I said, this is the best novel about Jamaica I've ever read. And it said in the Philippines. It gets the craze. Because if you're in Manila, or if you're in Cape Town, or if you're in Kingston, or if you're in Maracaibo, the second I land in Cape Town, I go, oh yeah, I know this.
Yeah.
And I can't be conned in Cape Town because I'm like, no, I know your hustle. I know this. One of the things, Mexico City, I land there and go, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
I think she catches the craziness. She catches the way, the malignant way in which politics insinuates everything. And if nothing else, she knows that in these cities, we always are hovering between a political election and a beauty contest. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, this is Kingston, Jamaica. So definitely a book like Jessica Hagedorn's, like Dog Eaters. Books like Master, Tyranny, and Desire, which was about Thomas Thistlewood, that overseer in Jamaica, who I, developed such a hatred for. I had to put him in my book just to have somebody punch him. Yeah, it's Toni Morrison's Sula. Sula validated my life in ways I didn't know it needed to be validated. When Sula said, when Nell says to a dying Sula, what do you have to show for your life? And Sula says, show to who? And I was like, it never hit me. I was like, it never hit me that I can live my life without not for the approval of people who may never approve me. It just never occurred to me. And then I read Sula, and it did. And honestly, if I talk about Sula more, I'll probably start crying. But it did. So it was a really a wide range of books. Olive Senior's Summer Lightning, a Jamaican collection of short stories. I could go on. That could have been my talk. Those are the ones that come straight to mind. Sometimes it's books that coming from way across the other side of the world, and it just hit me like, this is the vision of myself I needed to see.
Yeah. Other questions?
God, how did it?
So it's a question about representing drugs and addiction in a brief history of 7 killings, and you want to know, how did Marlon get so close to the bone there?
No, I did not. I did not consume any controlled substances while writing that book. There's none that I remember.
A little caveat there.
A lot of the skills I learned from writing, I didn't learn in creative writing class. I actually learned from journalists. And I'm a big believer that fiction writers should take a journalism course and so on. I just ask people. I talk to so many addicts. I talk to present-day addicts. I talk to drug dealers. I just was not shy. Even some things like, someone is like, okay, I need to know the difference between a heroin high and a cocaine high. Which is the one that makes you feel like you must have sex, which is the other one that actually makes you can't have sex, which is so on and so on. And I just ask as many questions as I could. And I think the rest is a kind of, you make this leap of empathy, I think. Because I certainly wasn't going to try heroin. or Angel does. But yeah, it's asking people. But I will, I also ask almost to the point of being invasive questions because I need to know. I keep thinking, man, I really hope Homeland Security is no longer watching my computer because the stuff I research, is crazy. But yeah, and the rest of it is asking and knowing, and then sometimes just making a leap of empathy. No, those I get by reading Woman. Because I remember years ago, I remember which novel it was, and Elizabeth Nunes, the Trinidadian novelist, said, you're a pretty good writer, but you don't have a clue about women. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have a mother. I know women folk. And but then she asked a question which I sure will stump 90% of the male writers. She asked, how many women have you read? And I realized all the women I read are dead. And so I said, that's your problem. You don't read women. And I don't think you can write women if you don't read women.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And she's a person who made me read Toni Morrison, which changed my life. Toni Morrison and Iris Murdoch and Muriel Spark and Alice Walker and Kathy Acker and just women from all over the spectrum and understanding writing female characters. You have to read how people write female characters, and that's how that happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another question?
Yes, here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a question about understanding African spirituality and mysticism on its own terms instead of through the lens of Catholicism or Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, to talk about the Caribbean context for a second, a lot of that I knew, not just because I have really, really close friends who are Santeras, and that there's just some things that Old Master couldn't whip away. And it's not just like Obia or Mayal or Voodoo, Voodoo, or all these things, which I know quite a bit about. Our folklore like Sukuyan and Rolling Calf and all of that. But I actually wasn't interested in diaspora mythology. I wasn't only interested in that. I really wanted to go further back and things like Bultungi and Yumbo and Eloko and all these things. I wanted the mythologies and the legends and the histories and the religions that I didn't know. Because I was going back to a period before pre-Christian, pre-Islam, that type of time in sub-Saharan Africa, which meant a lot of research and not a lot of depending on how I interpreted them here. Because it would have been very easy for me to write that kind of book, but then that's an American book, right, or that's an African book through an American gaze, or a diaspora gaze. And yes, I could have written that book, and I think that book actually should be written, but it was written. That's what Gabriel Garcia Marquez does. So I to me, a lot of that type of book has been written, including me. I wrote one or two of them. I really wanted to go back to the mythologies I didn't know, and it's stuff I had to go and learn, and that set me in that I had to think of different wavelengths and even a different kind of worldview and a different type of cosmologies and all those things to write this book, because I had to write the book from the point of view of characters who take these things for granted. It goes back to what I was saying about I couldn't write it like a tourist. I couldn't be a spiritual tourist either. So yeah, that's why it took me 2 years of researching all of that. Some of them I stayed away from. I resisted, and I think I stayed away from like having Orishas in the book, largely because Orishas are still being worshipped and Orishas are still being taken seriously. And to me, to put Orishas in the book, it'd be like me writing Lord of the Rings, and instead of Gandalf, it's Jesus. And I wasn't gonna take living gods and make them comic characters. So that I was very careful to stay away from that. But I'm still hugely inspired by that cosmology, that universe, that there are beings in the sky and beings in the sea, and that kind of sort of supernatural is actually. I have to write it as the supernatural is natural. But yeah, I did have to let go of the sort of the diasporic kind of elements, despite them being clearly from Africa. Yeah.
So we might have time for like a couple more.
That was way at the top, waving. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to ask you a question. Masculinity for the Jamaican.
So a quick summary of that. So the speaker here grew up in Jamaica and is talking about homosexuality in Jamaica and the homophobia, and unable to sort of see it until leaving the country, and wants to know how Marlon was able to sort of write from the outside about homophobia in Jamaica.
Honestly, I did what you did. Because even as a gay person, being in Jamaica, I couldn't see it with three-dimensionally either. I couldn't see it with any sort of three-dimensionality either. And it's leaving the country and gaining perspective that allowed me to write it. The one thing I have to say here, which is very important, I've talked to Jamaicans. A Jamaican friend of mine is just 8 years younger than me. He read books, and he read an essay I wrote in the New York Times where I kind of came out and says, "I gotta tell you, I didn't recognize that Jamaica you're talking about." I remember going back to University of West Indies and meeting their Gay Students Association, the Queer Association, and I had my It Gets Better speech ready to give, and they're like, "We don't want to hear that shit. Do you know Beyonce?" It was this whole new generation of still kids who are refusing to give up childhood and teenagedom. They want it. They want the bad relationship. They want the huge crush. they want to worry only about Beyonce versus Rihanna. They're not gonna, and they refuse to give that up. But like you, I think I needed the perspective to even bring some sort of humanity to how that homophobia works. Because it's too easy to take, for example, the view that a lot of people who visit Jamaica have. So when people said to me, even now, what's it like growing up in the most homophobic nation on earth? As I had no idea Jamaica was spelled R-U-S-S-I-A. Because I don't feel scared in Jamaica. I lose my shit in Russia. So it's recognizing also that it's complicated was something I needed perspective. And I think I needed to leave here to get a three-dimensional view. I don't think a lot of people younger than me have to, but I know for me I needed to do that. And it's not just and looking back at brief history, it's not just the content that it affected, it's also the form. That those sections of the book are actually the loosest writing I've ever written. It's the most carefree writing I've ever written, because I think I needed. I can't imagine how I'd have written those scenes if I was living in Jamaica. I know how I'd have written them. They'd have been very stilted. They'd literally speak a kind of repression, I think. So even the form of which I wrote those scenes, I think I needed to leave to do it. But I also recognize that there's a whole new generation of Jamaicans who they don't. Yeah.
Maybe one final question, last question.
Yes, sent it right here. He was asking with the recent award-winning trilogy of N.K. Jemisin, was an exciting time for Black sci-fi and sci-fi readers. Yeah, but it has been for a while. I mean, it's N.K. Jemisin, it's Nnedi Okorafor. I hope more people start reading Sophia Samatar and Kaya Shanti Wilson, because they are both pretty fantastic, and they've been very fantastic in focusing on fantasy. Because I think sci-fi is pretty well represented. Fantasy, a lot of people are still, working on. You can't ignore. I don't think I was going to try to get to the end of one panel without bringing up Black Panther. But since somebody mentioned Michael P. Jordan anyway, and I really get off on telling people, yeah, Killmonger bought the book. Black Panther, Black Lightning, Luke Cage, and so on. These elements are always around, and these stories are always around. I think there's a new attention, and I think this is one of the situations where things like social media actually do good things. In that before, a lot of this would have just been considered niche and just put off somewhere. And niches are great, but it robs people twice the time. Only a few people get to read it, and the rest, miss out. And there's some really, really fantastic work that was been going on. Charles Saunders did the Imaro trilogy from way back in, I think it was the 70s. So those works are always, were always there. What I hope is that it doesn't, people look at it as a moment, as opposed to something that's a paradigm shift and people are reading it. Meaning that it's, writers like N.K. Jemisin and so on are having more white readers than ever before, which prove a point which I always thought was that everybody wants to read these stories. It's usually the gatekeepers and the marketers who think they don't. And I think that's what we need to sort of look at. I'm amazed at the people who read this book, because I still come out of an industry that told me that these audiences are limited. I think everybody wants a great story, and everybody wants. I think everybody wants something sort of fresh, and I think everybody's drawn to to newness. So I hope it's. I think it's more than a moment. At least I hope it is. And I think more and more people are reading these stories. And I think more and more people are broadening the idea of what they want stories to do. I couldn't tell the last time somebody come up with things like, I need to relate or identify that story, which is two of the dumbest things ever said about literature. Can you imagine if everybody else in the world thought that? I can't imagine being in Jamaica and going, well, I don't relate to Indiana Jones. I just recognize a great story, and I like a good yarn like everybody else. And I think that it's almost going back to a simpler type of idea of pleasure. We just want a good yarn. We just want a good story. And I think that's it. And I really hope it continues. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, thank you, Marlon.
Thank you guys, and thanks for coming out.
So, thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Vancouver Writers Fest.
You've been listening to Books and Ideas Audio, a presentation of the Vancouver Writers Fest. To hear more events like this one, please visit our website at www.writersfest.bc.ca.